What's going on? It's your girl, Teesha, and we back with Precious Eyes Realized. And we're gonna jump into how to recognize a narcissist. Okay? All right. Now, recognizing a narcissist can be tricky because of their behavior. It often looks charming or confident at first. But if you look closely, there are patterns that show up over time. And here are some of the key signs. Core traits, red flag. Excessive need for admiration. They're constantly seeking praise, validation. They're constantly seeking attention. You know, they have something to prove, and things need to be on their time. A sense of entitlement. They expect special treatment or believing rules don't apply to them. They expect things to be about them and on their time. And you don't even know them like that. Lack of empathy. It can be disguised as having empathy, but a lot of times they're just saying what they need to say to prove to you, basically to get you in the loop. They're going to give you fake empathy just so that they could be on your good side, so they can appear how they want to appear. They have difficulty understanding people or caring about other people's feelings. Grandiosity. Exaggerating achievements, talents, or connections. Acting superior. Hold on, y'all. God, I'm recording right now. Give me 1 second.
Excuse me, one of your IT.
Yeah, so I'm back. Oh man, I hope it's not making me do a whole new one, but we're gonna keep going. So, core traits to a narcissist. I'm gonna repeat that. Excessive need for admiration, constantly seeking praise, attention, or validation. Sense of entitlement, expecting special treatment or believing rules don't apply to them. Like they are the exception. Lack of empathy. They have difficulty understanding or caring about other people's feelings. And if they do, they fake it. Grandiosity. Exaggerating achievements, talents, or connections. They act superior. Not all of them, though. Some of them are covert. Manipulation. They use guilt. They gaslight you or charm to control situations and people. They know what to say to charm you. They'll gaslight you. They'll act like they're genuinely saying something to you, but they throwing in some slick remarks in there to gaslight you so you could flip out, and then they could be like, damn, but I didn't know you was like that. Or they guilt trip you. They go out their way to do something you never asked them to do. Then if you don't respond to it within their time frame, now they start to guilt trip you. or they force you to take things you don't want or need and then throw it in your face later. That is a pure narcissist, gaslighting, manipulative tactic. In conversations, they dominate discussions, turning everything back to themselves. They dismiss your feelings and minimize your experiences. They may shift blame, rarely taking responsibility when things go wrong. In relationships, they love bomb you at first. Excessive attention, gifts, or praise. Then comes the devaluation phase and the criticism. Basically, they throw down the red carpet for you and then slide it up from under your feet. This is what they do. Hot and cold behavior. Affectionate one moment, distant or cruel the next. Control tactics. They isolate you from friends and family, monitoring you or making you doubt yourself. Patterns over time. A trail of broken friendships and relationships because eventually people pull away. Difficulty maintaining jobs, commitments, or stable partnerships. That's not for all of them, because some narcissists have to run the rat race to feel superior and so that they don't sit with themselves. So these things are not everything just the way it is. You know, there's some things that switch around. Extreme reaction to criticism. They may lash out. They may become defensive, or they play the victim. But only a mental health professional can diagnose a narcissistic personality disorder. Many people show these narcissistic traits, but it doesn't always mean that they are a narcissist. The key is how consistent, harmful, and rigid the behavior is. So we know many people who have narcissistic traits, but it doesn't mean that they are pure narcissists. Some are pure narcissists, and you will tell over time because they stay stuck in that and they don't want to get out of it. And everyone else is wrong but you. You know. That's what I've noticed. I was raised by a narcissist, and I got with a narcissist very early. And it's been so long that that person continues to be a narcissist. And there will never be an apology. And if it is, it's not meaningful. It's not from the heart. It's not genuine. Most of them stay stuck in their ways, and the ones that don't want to change at all till the end, rarely they'll crack. But if you aren't a narcissist and you realize that you were carrying narcissistic traits, once you realize that, you genuinely change, or you work towards changing those traits about yourself. So that could be someone that was like a narcissist at first, but then they changed, once they got to the awareness, whether they was in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. But some people never, ever change. Yeah, so now, what it takes for change is self-awareness. They first have to recognize that their behavior harms others. Some people will never recognize that. They stay stuck in the blame or avoiding that responsibility. Often this realization only comes when they face major consequences like losing relationships, jobs, or respect. Willingness to accept help. Therapy, especially long-term psychotherapy, is the main path forward. Approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, schema therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, can help challenge thought patterns and teach empathy. Accountability and responsibility. Change requires owning their actions instead of blaming others. This can be the hardest step for a narcissist since accountability threatens their self-image. Practice of empathy. With guidance, they can learn to pause, listen, and consider others' feelings. Journaling, role reversal exercises, and mindfulness help build this muscle. Consistency over time. Change isn't instant. It takes years of efforts, and setbacks are common. Narcissistic traits can soften with persistence, though the personality structure may not fully disappear. I was having certain narcissistic traits, and I was like, I realized, like, wait a minute. When my mom came to visit me in Florida in 2018, I was like, wait a minute. Am I like that? And it was a wrap from there on. I went on like a spiritual journey of awareness and realization. Took a lot of purging and understanding and looking and reflection and why. And it was so hard, but I genuinely realized that I was carrying some narcissistic traits, and I genuinely never wanted to be that type of person. I was maybe stuck in survival mode and stuck in a pattern that's all I saw growing up. You know how you start to turn into exactly what you don't want to be. So I'm so glad for that. But the common barriers is a denial. I'm not the problem. Everyone else is. That's a common barrier. You don't want to look within and reflect. A fear of vulnerability. You're afraid to be vulnerable in front of others. And, they see admitting flaws as a weakness. They feel that they're weak if they say, hey, maybe I am like this, I'm like that. But a superficial effort is another common barrier. Making short-term changes just to keep someone around, but then they slip back into the same behavior once the pressure eases. So what can improvement look like? Better ability to maintain long-term relationships, more openness to feedback without rage or defensiveness, increased patience and empathy in conversations. Yeah, I noticed that in that time I wasn't that empathetic anymore. Like when I was under that abuse for so long, must have been like 25, 26, and I was like, I wasn't really empathetic like that. But then when I got away from it, I changed so much. More signs that what an improvement can look like is increased patience and empathy in conversations, less reliance on manipulation for control, like letting things go with the flow. More natural, more genuine, not trying to control the outcome of this and that. So the bottom line is a narcissist can change, but only if they are motivated, willing to do deep emotional work, and supported by professional therapy. Without the genuine desire and accountability, change is unlikely to last. And, a lot of people can have that around you. Now, the way that this thing develops is their childhood environment. There could have been excessive praise without limits. A child that's been constantly told that they're special or superior without being taught accountability. They may grow up with a sense of entitlement. Or the opposite, excessive criticism and neglect. Children who experience harsh criticism, neglect, or emotional abuse may build a grandiose self-image to protect themselves against deep feelings of shame or inadequacy. And that does make a lot of sense, because my family member who was exclusively narcissist, they experience deep emotional neglect, and I'm sure that they felt that and had to create that image to protect themselves. But then, they pass that on. The unmet emotional needs of a child, the lack of consistent love, validation, or safety can push a child to create a false self just to survive. This mask, it hides vulnerability, but later becomes rigid and destructive in adulthood. Trauma and attachment issues, emotional trauma, unstable caregivers, or inconsistent bonding can disrupt healthy empathy development. Some narcissists show patterns similar to insecure or avoidant attachment styles. There's also biological and genetic factors. Studies suggest that a genetic component narcissistic trait can run in families. Brain research shows possible differences in areas linked to empathy and self-reflection and emotional regulation. Another way is cultural and social influences can create a narcissist. Societies that emphasize status, competition, and material success, or individualism, may encourage narcissistic traits. Social media and image culture can also reinforce narcissistic behaviors because it rewards appearance, validation, seeking, and comparison. Not everyone exposed to these risks becomes a narcissist. Protective factors like stable caregivers, supportive friendships, or early intervention and therapy can help prevent narcissistic traits from becoming a fixed disorder. So it can be, out of order, but people stay stuck in that pattern. So narcissism often develops as a defense mechanism, a way of coping with deep feelings of inadequacy, fear, or neglect. Over time, the mask of superiority becomes ingrained and hard to take off. So there's different types of narcissists. You have grandiose versus vulnerable. So the grandiose narcissist, the overt narcissist, is more outgoing, confident, charming, and often loud. They expect admiration and attention, believes they are superior, powerful, or destined for greatness. They seek statuses, success, and control. How they treat others may be domineering, arrogant, and dismissive. Exploit others without guilt. Can seem magnetic in social settings, but leave others feeling used. The roots of that is often linked to excessive praise or overindulgence in childhood. You're the best. You can't do no wrong. And taught that worth equals performance or status. So the vulnerable narcissist, the covert narcissist, traits are different there. Those traits are insecure, hypersensitive to criticism, may appear shy, withdrawn, or quietly superior. Often struggles with envy and feelings of inadequacy. They play the victim or use passive aggression. How do they treat others? They're easily offended, may sulk or hold grudges, can be emotionally manipulative in subtle ways. They use guilt or self-pity to get attention. The roots of that is more often linked to high criticism, neglect, and emotional trauma in their childhood. Builds a false self to hide shame and low self-esteem. Other recognized subtypes of narcissists are malignant narcissist, communal narcissist, somatic narcissist, and cerebral narcissist. And we're going to get back to that because somebody is knocking.